Go.
Welcome to The Vine. This is video number 17. We're looking at chapter 16 in Greg Ogden's book, Discipleship Essentials. And chapter 16 is on trust. And we are here in the historic Stanley Bank, courtesy of the Overland Park Historical Society. And we want to we want to be here because a bank is a place that we trust. And the way banks work are interesting. We give them our money because we trust them to hold on to our money more than we trust ourselves, and we trust them to do good things with our money and to keep it safe. God works in a similar way to a bank where God of course gives us our life, but then we are to give our life back to Him, to give over ownership to Him, to allow Him to care for our life and take care of our life and to manage the affairs of our life. Not that we don't have any responsibility on our own, but that God wants us to trust Him with everything in our life. And this is the point of Greg's teaching on trust. He uses the Proverbs chapter 3, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. This is the basic struggle we all have. Am I going to trust my own instincts? Am I going to trust my own way of doing things? Or am I going to trust God? Am I going to put it in the vault with God, all those precious things that I have, or am I going to clutch them with my own hands? And the Bible is overwhelming in its teaching that God wants us to trust Him with everything, from the biggest things in our life to the absolute smallest things in our life. From the question of who do I trust with my eternal salvation, to what do I do with this dollar that has come into my hand. God wants us to trust Him with all those things. Of course, one of the big questions about trust, and Greg raises this, is what happens when things in our life are not going so well? What happens even when we have terrible, terrible tragedy in our life? And Greg uses Romans 8:28, which is a great verse, and I bet I say it, and a lot of you know it, that God works all things together for good who are called according to His purpose. That doesn't mean that it's going to be the best of all lives that we can imagine, but it means that in everything, no matter what terrible tragedy, God is working to wring some good out of it. And of course, the great metaphor we have for this is the cross and the death of Jesus and His resurrection. In every crucifixion, if we trust God, there is a resurrection coming. We can trust in that. Let me give a little personal anecdote here. Greg talks about a guy named Jerry Sitzer. Jerry is a professor at Whitworth University. I had the privilege of meeting Jerry this last summer. And Jerry wrote a book called Grace Concealed. And the book was based upon a terrible tragedy in his life where 3 generations of women in his life died in a car wreck. His mother, his wife, and his daughter. And Jerry wrote the book called Grace Concealed to talk about that in his life. Jerry's one of the most faithful, humble men that I've ever had the chance to get to know, and it's great to spend time with him. After the publication of Discipleship Essentials, in fact, just this last year, Jerry wrote a book called Grace Revealed, which tells the rest of the story, how Jerry's life has gone on almost 20 years after that wreck. And I want to share just a brief bit with you. Here's what Jerry says. And remember this terrible tragedy that happened in his life. He said, God works redemption. Whether life takes a dramatic turn or continues on its usual course, in the end, redemption is about God, who He is and how He works. He is the author, we the characters. Now in there is the ultimate statement of trust. Number 1, that God works redemption in all things. Number 2, that this life is not about us, but it is about God, and we can trust Him in that. And number 3, that we are characters in this grand story that God is telling, and this grand story that God is constantly revealing. And there is a beauty in that and a fruitfulness in that is beyond our imagination. We shouldn't try too hard to write our own story, but we should really try hard to see what God's story is and what God is doing in our life. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for the next video in a couple weeks.